don't make this. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Covin Icheta, for that update on the vaccinations. The Minister for ICT and National Guidance shall actually give us some of the strategies government is putting in place to ensure that most of these vaccines are used before they reach their expiration date, that is September 30th. But then before we delve into that, I would like to talk about what is happening within the Masaka sub-region, the matters that have been taken to the stage. You do have two MPs, courtesy of the National Unity Platform Party, Alan Sewanyana Makinye West, and also Kawempe North, Muhammad Sagirinya, who are incarcerated. We did see Alan Sewanyana being released from Chigo, that is as of Thursday last week, but then he was rearrested, and this came a couple of weeks after President Museveni voiced his concerns on murder suspects being released on bail. So why is the president bent on actually removing bail for murder suspects? We would like to talk about that and a lot more. We do have the minister here. A very good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us, Comrade Baryomunsi.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and good morning, viewers. I'm happy to be back here.
To be back here, the last time we interacted was after the election, the contentious election in earlier this year.
Yes, but I was also
How have you
here.
been?
I've been fine. I've been fine.
A lot has been happening within the Masaka sub-region. 26 people have been killed. Many of these murders have been linked to opposition politicians, especially Muhammad Sagirinya and Alan Sewanyana, one of whom was released last week. Now the issue here is that he was released, but then he was kidnapped. That's the word they are using. What exactly happened here? Why did we see this rearrest come at a time when the president actually voiced his concerns against people being released on bail?
Well, first of all, unfortunate incidents have been happening in the greater Masaka area, where in the last weeks we saw criminals hacking to death a number of innocent people. They were targeting all the women, all the men, people who live alone in houses. And the whole country was shocked, and we were wondering why would anybody target these people in the villages who have nothing to do with the government, nothing to do with us who are in leadership, but are being killed. And the security agencies and the police mounted efforts. And although you are focusing on 2 members of parliament, but the over 70 people have been arrested, unfortunately, including the 2 members of parliament. And nobody is targeting the opposition or members of parliament.
But so it's not a witch hunt?
No, but just depends on the kind of information the investigators gather. Because if in the course of investigation they say, oh, Chris Baryomunsi is being mentioned here, I'm sure you know. Police will come and say, they have mentioned you, can you give us information ABCD? So I think in the course of the investigations, the names of the 2 MPs came up. I am actually the first one who announced that the investigations had linked some of these crimes to politicians. And people were up in arms. They say, you name them, you name them. So investigations are still going on. Some of these suspects have been produced in the court, and we may not delve too much into details. But the issue of rearrest of Honorable Sewanyana is not a kidnap, because even the security forces have said, yes, we have him, we rearrested him.
In Chidaka.
So you cannot say it's a kidnap. Yes, he had been given bail, but you see, when you get bail, it's not a guarantee that if new evidence or new information, or if security still wants you to provide more information, they cannot rearrest you. They can, even immediately after you get bail, as long as it is done humanely. I hope he has not been tortured. And as long as you are detained in a gazetted area, and as long as there is a reason, there is evidence, there is information they want, and it will be produced in the court, there should be no cause for alarm. If he had been arrested and nobody knows where he is, and you fear maybe he has been killed, that would be a different story. But in this case, security confirmed, yes, we arrested him. We want more information from him, because in the course of being produced to the court for bail, new information may have been gathered by the intelligence officers.
But of course, Honorable Baryomunsi, this is happening weeks after the president himself came out and said unequivocally he was against this violence being used or heavy-handedness being used by his security operatives. But then this is also still taking center stage. And it also came after he said, well, he did not want murder suspects being released on bail. Could it be that this was a directive coming in straight from the president?
Not really, I don't think.
All right.
It could have been a coincidence. Yes, one, he was very clear
Yes.
when he guided security officers not to torture, not to abuse the human rights of individuals. In any case, when you are arrested, you are a suspect until when you are proved guilty or when you plead guilty. So these are suspects and they shouldn't be tortured. On whether he does not want murder suspects released on bail, unfortunately or fortunately, the law still guarantees that right that you can get bail even when you're a murder suspect. So yes, he may have his wishes, but not until they are translated into a law. He cannot force courts or direct judicial officers to follow his opinion. The judicial officers have to follow what the law says, and the law currently says a murder suspect can successfully apply for bail.
All right.
So I think it was just a coincidence.
Indeed. Before we leave Masaka, Honorable Baryomunsi, there is an accusation that has been taken center stage, and I want you to demystify it.
Yes.
I did have Joseph Kabuleta, a former presidential candidate. He came on this show and he stated that some state actors, actively or just among members of the public, were actually committing these atrocities simply because there is an oil pipeline that is going to be passing through the Masaka area, and government is adamant to compensate these people. That's why they were orchestrating these murders, to ensure that these people run away from this hotspot where the oil pipeline is going to pass. Help us demystify this. I've been scratching my head for a full week, and I've been waiting for you to come here on the show and set the record straight.
That's a very strange accusation.
Very strange, wouldn't you
First of all, the pipeline runs from Hoima Bunyoro down to Tanga. So why would you focus on Masaka? Are you saying that the other land where the pipeline is passing is not inhabited or has no owners?
Well, I even mentioned that even Bunyoro, some people were also being hacked or being killed.
No.
In that regard.
That's just an outrageous accusation, which I just dismiss with the contempt. I think there is no really iota of truth for any stretch of imagination.
Because why would government, mete out violence on its own people?
First of all, is he saying that the people being killed are exactly the owners of the land where the pipeline is passing? I don't think so. So
of course, and these families have relatives who would later on come out and say, we are still the owners of this land and we still need compensation if that pipeline comes through at any point from now.
Our law is very clear. The Constitution, in Article 26, talks about compulsory acquisition of land.
All right.
And what it states is that if government intends to do a project for public good, whether it's a pipeline or a road, electricity, water, build a hospital, a school, yes, government has a right to acquire that land, but it must compensate the owner. And the compensation must be adequate, it must be fair, must be paid promptly, and must be paid prior to acquisition. So the law is very clear. That law is done by made by the government itself. So why would the government fear to handle compensation?
All right.
So
Honorable Baryomunsi.
Honorable Kabuleta is just daydreaming.
Indeed, I'll take you away from Masaka. So many controversies surrounding Masaka. Let's now take you to the Karamoja sub-bridge, another area that is being bogged by controversies, insecurity that is taking center stage. Cattle rustling left, right, and center. The president did camp within this area, and still the cattle rustlers did show him that they would continue with their activities unabated. Up to now, since 2019, around September, over 400 people have been killed during these clashes. What do you think is unfolding here, and what is government doing, or what strategies have you put together to actually resolve or pacify the Karamoja sub-region?
Well, it is very unfortunate that this cattle rustling associated with the killings has come up again, because Karamoja had been pacified.
Indeed.
Because the problem of Karamoja is quite historical. Like all of us know, cattle rustling has been taken as a tradition, and I think since NRM came, we have prioritized Karamoja and focused on it. There have been several programs, including disarmament and educating the people to abandon the cattle rustling and settle down. And by and large, Karamoja has made a lot of progress. But I think the challenges are like two. One, we do a lot of interventions on our side in Uganda, but the other side, an equal mobilization does not take place.
In the Turkana area.
The Turkana area. And also the borders are porous in terms of guns.
So if we disarm our own rustlers, they will cross the border and get the guns from the other side.
Then secondly, I think there is a rivalry, inter-clan rivalry, the clans and the ethnic groupings within Karamoja.
The warrior Achuchu.
So there is
and then the
raiding of the other to get the cattle. The rustling sometimes takes place between one ethnic group and another. And therefore it's unfortunate that it is coming up again. But the security is on the top of the situation.
But government has been blamed. One reason is because when there was deployment within the Karamoja sub-region, we did see a reduction in these cases happening within this area. But then they say government noticed that the place was being pacified, then they pulled out UPDF. They're saying the biggest mistake was pulling out UPDF. We should maintain the presence of the boots on the ground.
Yes, that could have been an oversight on the side of government.
I see.
And we draw lessons from all this. But the deployment has been done. There should be enough security now, and the cattle rustling and the killings must come down. I'm sure you can see that they are already coming down. So the situation will be handled, and it's being handled. But it's unfortunate that people can just innocently die simply because of cattle rustling and the practices which should be of the past. But we are involving the leaders, the members of parliament, elected leaders, to prevail upon their people, to sensitize them, to educate them so that they can abandon some of these bad practices which are not progressive at all.
Do you think as we actually disarm the cattle rustlers, we should also embark on re-educating them, removing the ideology of cattle rustling from their generations?
Absolutely. And a lot of effort. That's why there's even a specific ministry dedicated for Karamoja, because Karamojong are largely nomadic herdsmen, and time over, government has invested resources to educate them, to settle down, to engage in agriculture, and to know that you don't have to move from one place to another. And I think there has been a lot of transformation, but more effort is needed to educate the people so they can abandon some of those traditional practices like cattle rustling and the nomadic.
Honorable, the local defense unit personnel within this region have also been accused of being involved in cattle rustling. During the day, they are doing their normal work, which is defending the country or protecting the citizens. But in the night, they remove the uniforms since they have the gun and go ahead and execute these activities. What is being done to actually bring them to book?
Absolutely. Those are some of the observations being made, and definitely they have to be disciplined. It's wrong if you are holding a government gun. It should be used to protect the people, but not use it against the people. And we've been calling upon the local population to be vigilant. And if they suspect any of those LDUs, or even the army or police officers employed by government, if they're involved in that one, then disciplinary action has to be taken. But that will be brought down.
All right. What happens to unfinished government business? Jacob Olanya did mention that business that was being worked on by the 10th Parliament won't be actually absorbed or inherited by the 11th Parliament. It has to be retabled afresh. So what happens to unfinished government business? Give us an update on that.
Well, I think what the Right Honourable Speaker was doing was to interpret the rules as we made them. If they are unclear, we can't even amend them. But I was in Parliament when we made that rule, and the intention of the framers of that rule was that if Parliament comes to an end, like the 10th Parliament came to an end, and it is still pending business, like usually it is, then it should be saved and handled in the next Parliament. Shouldn't lapse, shouldn't just die, especially if we still have interest in it. And I think the issue is how we phrased the rule, but that's the intention. And therefore we shall examine it. I think what the Speaker is saying, it doesn't automatically just go into the next Parliament. If it is a government bill, a motion, the minister has to table it again, which is okay, which we can table. And that's today on the Cabinet order paper, we are discussing this issue. So if there is a bill which lapsed with the old Parliament and the government still has interest in it, we can reintroduce it. So the question is, if it goes the committee, should the committee build on what had been done before, or they start afresh? And that we shall iron it out.
What about the issue of finances? A lot of money went into actually tabling of all these bills, and the MPs are actually up in arms. They're saying we need too much money to table these bills again. I'm going to actually task you on that conversation after this short break. We are still talking to the ICT and National Guidance Minister, Honorable Chris Baryomunsi, on what is taking place in the country. It is a multifaceted conversation. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Fast forward, let's go to the Anti-Corruption Court in Kololo and interact with Stephen Mbide, who is on standby to engage Shamim Malende, a lawyer, on the rearrest of Alan Sewanyana, the Makindye West MP. Stephen Mbide, very good morning once again. What's the latest where you are?
Yes, good morning to you, Ramya Busiko. I'm coming to you straight from the Anti-Corruption Court here in Kololo. We know that the Member of Parliament for Makindye West, Honorable Alan Aloysius Sewanyana, is still in detention. But the efforts by the lawyers, by activists and his party, that is the National Unity Platform, to ensure that he gets justice. But of course also the Kawempe North MP, that is Muhammad Seginya, still also at Chigo prison because he wasn't given bail. But I'm here speaking to the Member of Parliament for Kampala and also their lawyer, as well as the Minister of the Shadow Minister for Justice, Honorable Shamim Malende. Just bring us to speed. Where is Honorable Alan Sewanyana, and what is his fate for now?
Good morning, viewers. Thank you so much, NTV, for this opportunity. Right now, we are here at the International Crimes Division, where the Anti-Corruption Court is located. We are here to follow up the matter of Honorable Seginya Muhammad first, because we filed an application for substitution of a surety or variation of court order, so that we can substitute Honorable Zake Francis, who is out of the country, with another surety. That is Honorable y6ou or Honorable Sanja. However, about the issue of Honorable Alan Sewanyana, you all know that he was given bail by Masaka High Court on 20th, but however, his court documents, release order, was signed just recently, and then we went to collect him from Chigo prison, and as you all witnessed, he was immediately, before leaving actually the prison premises, he was abducted, kidnapped. We don't call that a rearrest in law. Because the manner in which he was taken, you all witnessed, it wasn't an arrest in line with our constitutional mandate. So we have been trying as the lawyers to go to the different police stations, to go to the different detention centers to look for Honorable Alan Sewanyana, so that we can know if there are any fresh charges, what charges are those, and maybe what we can do for him. However, the different police stations we have gone, including y6ou Chireka, where the Honorable leader told us that this is where Honorable Alan Sewanyana is kept. They told us they don't have him. So currently we all don't know where Honorable Alan Sewanyana is. And as lawyers, we have prepared an application for habeas corpus to ensure that we seek court orders for his mandatory release, whether he's alive or dead, for him to be produced.
There is, when he was being rearrested, we saw some officers of the Ghana prisons. Have you gotten any information from the Ghana prison service why such an act went on in their vicinity and they're under their watch? But also the Army spokesperson, Brigadier General Fabio Biekwa, says he could be arraigned before the military court. How do you look at this?
It's very perturbing, because first and foremost, what happened at the prison precincts did not look like an arrest, but rather a kidnap or an abduction. Secondly, it is true the Chigo prison gave us a leeway and said, for me, I have released the person, the relevant documents have been processed, it is okay, you can take the person. But we were informed to wait for Honorable Alan Sewanyana from outside the gate of Chigo prison. And, but the unfortunate incident was that barricades were put. There were prison officials that were put right where he was supposed to pass with guns. But then we did not know the intention. We thought that maybe it is just for coming down, you know, maybe the excitement. So for us, we still insist that Honorable Alan Sewanyana was arrested within the prison premises, because he had just left the gate like this, but then there were other barricades by the prison authorities, which he had not yet passed when the drone came and picked him and took him away. So we are still saying that the prison is saying for us we don't have him and we are not responsible. We did our part. He was rearrested maybe on other charges, but we are telling them, look, this did not look like an arrest, and look, the person was still within your premises. So basically it is that, but our mandate is to ensure that we fight for his rights, we ensure that he's produced whether he's alive or dead.
Members of Parliament are supposed to be summoned through the Parliament of Uganda, but the way, when you look at the way he was rearrested, you members of Parliament, do you think that this has to be a matter that has to be put on the floor of Parliament? Because if it's happening to Sewanyana, maybe it's tomorrow, it'll be happening to someone else, and this man of arrest, how do you look at it as members of Parliament, away from you being his counsel?
First and foremost, it's not the first time that the security agencies or other people are arresting people in that manner. Ordinary members of society, and even honorable members of Parliament, and even other persons with different calibers. So we condemn, because we believe that Honorable Alan Sewanyana, or even any member of Parliament, can be summoned and they appear. Like it happened when Masaka officials at Masaka police station wanted Honorable Sewanyana and Honorable Alan and Honorable Segirinya. They issued summons through Parliament, and which were served on the Speaker, and they were transmitted through to the honorable members who complied and went there. So we still insist that instead of that kind of abduction that taints our nation, that taints our constitutionalism and the rule of law, its implementation, honorable members of Parliament should be summoned. Even actually ordinary members of society, people who have some standing in society, can first be summoned and then they comply, because a honorable member of Parliament is a person who cannot run away. They have an address, they have a leader, they have administrators who are parliamentary commissioners, the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, and you know, they can always be up to the call. Okay,
maybe lastly, today there is a lecture that is the Baryomunsi, the former first Chief Justice of Uganda. The president is expected to be the chief guest, but also he is on record saying that those who are charged with capital offences like murder and treason shouldn't be given bail. And your client, or your clients, Segirinya and Alan Sewanyana, are facing these capital offences. How do you look at this issue of denying bail those who are suspects who are on capital offences?
I think everyone is entitled to their own opinion. If the leader is saying that that is his opinion, but the question is, what should be done? What should be the best thing that should be done? Like in Uganda, we have a constitution, and under Article 28, there is a presumption of innocence, meaning that not every person that you see behind bars, not every person who is in a police cell or police or prison detention is actually committed that offense. That's why they say that when you arrest a person, that person is a suspect. So it is upon the people who are supposed to be in charge of investigations to expedite the investigations and bring the culprits to book, lay evidence on table. So my advice to the sitting president would be that instead of saying that people with capital offences should not be granted bail, the issue should be that those people who are charged with capital offences, I urge and I command my investigating officers and the security personnel to always expedite the investigations and bring evidence on the table so that those people are dealt with first, so that the issue can be put to rest and the public order can be restored. Otherwise, if we go by that, we risk keeping innocent people in prison. We risk keeping innocent people in prison without representation.
Thank you. Armed with the robe that is for the court cases or for the court premises, ready for business, Shamim Malende, the lawyer for Alan Sewanyana and Muhammad Segirinya. Maybe as we wind up this conversation, Honorable Chris Baryomunsi is in the studio and is watching you and has been listening to you. Any question for him as we wind up?
The question is what many Ugandans are asking, and they are saying, How is it that, or why is it that currently in this country, every decision that is supposed to be taken, there is consultation, that even when a person sits in an office and they have mandate to decide, maybe to grant a police bond or to do what, they have to say, wait, we are still consulting, when is this thing of the above person coming to an end?
Thank you so much, Shami Malende. Stephen Imbido, y6ou. Now taking you back to studio for Romeo Busiko, who is there seated with Honorable Chris Baryomunsi. Take it over from me, Romeo.
Shami Malende, a lawyer representing Muhammad Segirinya and also Alan Sewanyana, two opposition MPs, courtesy of the National Unity Platform Party, who have been accused of murder or attempted murder within the Masaka sub-region. Honorable is still here, Chris Baryomunsi, and is ready to indulge us. She actually said, wasn't there another way? More like about the rearrest of Alan Sewanyana. She actually says it wasn't a rearrest, it was a kidnap, and she also says, wasn't there another way? Like summoning Alan Sewanyana, you know, after he leaves Chigo prison, and then summon him maybe the next day to come to the police premises to maybe record a statement and so forth. And even the arresting powers were not even police, it was the UPDF. Why was that happening that way?
Well, first of all, the initial summons came through Parliament, like she knows. And it depends on the kind of information that they had. Indeed. For instance, if they knew that maybe after the rallies, he's going to commit another crime immediately, would you say, okay, let him commit it, and then we shall go through Parliament to summon him?
So security was being proactive.
It depends on the circumstances.
I see.
If you found a high-profile person, God forbid, maybe raping or defiling a young girl,
I see.
Would you say, let me write Prime Minister to give
you proactively get into action?
So it depends on the circumstances. What is also reassuring that my sister Shamim is battling through courts of law. You can even see she's dressed in the garb for court, and they're not looking for Sewanyana in the bush that he's dead, but they are battling through court. So when you say rule of law, that's the rule of law. And the army has publicly said, yes, we arrested him. So why do you say kidnap or is missing when a government institution has said, yes, we arrested him and we are preparing him to appear in the courts of law? And then even UNTV, you put that he's missing after kidnap. Why do you put that on the screen? When the army spokesperson has said, yes, we arrested the person.
Is in Chireka?
In Chireka, yes. Chireka, and he will definitely appear in court, and he will be able to access his lawyers. So nobody should be worried that I hear her say dead or alive, there's nothing like dead. He will be arraigned in the courts of law. He will access the lawyers, and if the trial begins, then the evidence that the investigative officers have will be laid on the table. And that's the rule of law.
Well, the Minister for the Presidency recently came out and she said these heinous activities within Masaka were being orchestrated by opposition MPs who wanted to paint government in a bad light to show that there was no security whatsoever within the country, so that people might rise up and actually topple this same government. That's why we've been seeing these heinous attacks taking center stage within Masaka. Would you buy this to be true?
Well, investigations are still going on, and eventually we shall get to know the motive behind. But what we know, it may not necessarily be MPs alone, but regime haters.
Regime haters.
Some could be politicians, others could be non-politicians who thought that maybe by destabilizing the area of Greater Masaka, by causing insecurity, then people would lose confidence in NRM. Because one of the cardinal achievements of NRM has been restoring peace, stability, calmness. You enter into your house, you are sure you wake up in the morning and continue doing your day-to-day activities. But if a situation is created where people fear to even live in their homes, so I think the protesters of this think that that will make people now lose confidence in the NRM government. That's what we pick. But the investigations are still going on. We shall eventually know the people behind, and the motive.
And government has
let's not
largely,
speculate for now, since the investigation is
and government has largely excluded local leaders within the Masaka sub-region when it comes to the investigations. You did have the security minister who said, please, parliamentarians, do not talk to the local leaders, and local leaders of security do not talk to the parliamentarians or divulge any information as part of the investigations taking center stage.
No,
don't you think the lesser involvement of these local politicians could actually dampen your resolve to actually come on top of these investigations?
We have called for involvement of local leaders. Actually, police and the investigative team have worked with the LOCs, the local leaders. What the conversation was about is that when the members of parliament went, they were asking police and the investigators to tell them details of what they have found.
I see.
And that's not their role. Because I cannot go to Masaka and I call investigators, say, what have you found? What has the suspect said? You leave that one to the investigators. But you can mobilize as a political leader, call upon the people to be calm and so forth. But the members of parliament should not go into details of what the investigators are finding out.
All right.
You will jeopardize the investigations. That is being prepared, the evidence is being prepared for court, not for parliament.
Let's leave Masaka,
That's where the conversation was.
Baryomunsi. There are other pertinent issues within the country. The mass vaccination exercise that is being geared starting today. 58 spots have been highlighted within Kampala. They're also earmarking bars and so forth to continue with these vaccinations, but they're not selling any alcohol there. Please do not make any orders. Well, Honorable Baryomunsi, bring us up to speed with these vaccinations that are taking center stage nationwide. The rest to use the 67,000 doses of AstraZeneca before they expire on September 30th.
We have opened the spaces. The president recently, when he spoke, he talked of opening the prayer houses, and yesterday people were in the churches and happy. We also gave a timeline of schools opening in November. The universities and tertiary institutions will open in January next year. The secondary schools and primary schools will open. We continue requesting Ugandans to follow the SOPs because the number of Ugandans who are vaccinated are still small. The number is still small.
1.8 million.
Yes, but we are beginning to get in more doses of vaccines, and we call upon Ugandans, once the opportunity comes for you to be vaccinated, please turn up and get the jab. Because not until we vaccinate a critical number of Ugandans.
4.8 million.
4.8 for the beginning, and then 22 million in the mid-long term. When we reach the 22 million, that's when we shall open up, probably not putting on masks, the way you see football being washed again.
Yes, with fans in it.
With fans in Europe and so forth. The reason why it is like that, they have vaccinated a critical number, 70–80% of their population. Now here, we have said we have to vaccinate up to 4.8% of the vulnerable people, health workers, teachers, students, the elderly, those about 50 years, those with the existing diseases, up to 4.8. And once we reach the 4.8, that's when we shall open schools, for instance, and then we continue with the vaccination. So we are rolling out a mass campaign to vaccinate Ugandans, but starting with the targeted groups, then eventually opening up to everybody. And therefore our appeal is that once the opportunity strikes, please come and be vaccinated. The vaccines are safe. There is a challenge of vaccine hesitancy. Where
what are you doing about that?
Yes, that's why I'm here now to assure the population that the vaccines which we are giving are safe, whether it's AstraZeneca or Pfizer or Sinovac or Johnson & Johnson, whichever vaccine you are vaccinated with, it is safe, it is efficacious, it protects you. And what the vaccine does is that it protects you against disease, hospitalization, or even death. For instance, no person in Uganda has died of COVID when he or she has received a vaccination. And similarly elsewhere. So please, let's all embrace this vaccination. Let's support vaccination. If you are eligible for vaccination,
I
please
see.
take your jab.
But
I have received my 2 injections, for instance.
Yes.
I don't know whether you have.
You're very well protected, of course.
Yes, very well
So
protected.
how feasible is the timeline government has set for itself? When government says in November, post-secondary institutions will be open upon vaccinating the teaching, non-teaching, and also the students alike.
Yes.
How feasible is the target, given the fact
By
that
the
we've
time-
failed to vaccinate 500,000 teachers in over 2 months?
Yes,
We've only
because the
vaccinated
vaccines
half.
were not readily
I see.
available. But now they are. By the time the president spoke, we had over 2 million doses available within the country.
Yes.
And according to the schedule, which the president also read during his address,
Last week, yes.
by December, we shall have received up to 12 million doses of vaccines,
Indeed.
various types. And therefore, going forward, September, October, November, we shall have enough doses to vaccinate those numbers.
Of course, Honorable Baryomunsi.
The only challenge can only come
Yes.
if the teachers are not forthcoming, if the students are not forthcoming.
Yes.
And we have said, once the universities and the institution is open, you have to present your vaccination card, whether you're a teacher or a worker or a student. So it's safer for you to get vaccinated now so that you are able to.
All right. In a minute, say something about the COVID-19 testing at the airport. You do have travelers who are up in arms. They're saying even though we reduced from $65 all the way to 35 or 105,000 Uganda shillings, the fares are still high for COVID-19 testing here in this country. And they say when they leave their countries like Kenya, they are negative. When they come to Uganda, they become positive. And they said this is a money-minting venture where they just come up with fake positive COVID-19 certificates so that someone can pay money. What do you make of this?
No, the decision we have taken, we have said, first of all, we've been testing travelers who are coming from what we call category 2 countries, the high-risk countries, and they were 10 in number.
Yeah.
But we have now said every traveler who is coming in, irrespective of where you're coming from, you shall be tested. Whether you have a negative PCR test as is required, whether you have no symptoms of COVID, we shall test you.
Don't you think it will kill tourism?
No. We have put a special desk for tourists.
All right.
So that when a tourist comes, or an investor, or high-profile people from outside, non-Ugandans, you will go through a special desk. The sample is taken, you proceed to your hotel, and the results will find you in your hotel within 2 hours or so. Number 2, we are going to shift from private laboratories to government laboratory. We're now setting up a government laboratory.
Okay.
3, the costs have been reduced from $65 to $30.
Indeed.
And we are now finalizing arrangements, so people should not get worried. And the major reason why we are doing this is to see whether we can eliminate a risk of getting in new variants to avoid a third wave and other preceding waves.
And with
this
that
is in the interest of all of us who live in this country.
And with that being said, Honorable Chris Baryomunsi, we've come to the end of this conversation. Thank you very much for having, made the time out of your busy schedule to interact with us and our viewers on Morning at NTV. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
A pleasure. Ivan Walanyolo is on standby and ready to divulge more details or updates as far as his jurisdiction